Welcome everybody back to the 4-Star Wealth Advisors Financial Advisors Workshop. Our objective here is to talk to practitioners in our industry who have built a tremendous business, learn how they did it and what they're doing and what they think about the industry now, learn from all the great people in our business. So today we have another tremendous guest, and he's the CEO of his firm, Interchange Capital Partners, and his name is Ahmie Baum. Ahmie, welcome to the 4-Star Financial Advisors Workshop.
Great, thanks, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we're honored to have you because you're a 40-plus year veteran of the industry. You've seen a lot, you've done a lot, and you got some really interesting thoughts, opinions, and in our pre-discussion. Really some great things to say to our financial advisor public. So, I mean, why don't we start out on background? How did you get started in the business?
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about that.
Well, let me go back a little bit farther before how I got into the business. Part of, people's what's your why? My father used to talk about, what do you think? Money grows on trees. And, every time I wanted anything, and I'd look around because we lived in a, middle-class neighborhood, upper middle class, but we weren't. And it looked like there were other money trees hanging around. And my father clearly, and when I got into college, I came home and I said, Dad, I got into college. He said, great, how are you going to pay for it? I said, what? And at that moment, it dawned on me that part of the significant part of the family strife and issues between him and my mother had to do with money. He really was on a high wire act with no safety net. And I made it, I didn't realize it at the time, but that was a really important moment where I knew I had to build a safety net. So in working through college, I ended up working in the restaurant business because that's an easy way to make good money, and as waiter, bartender, and stuff like that. And I ran into a gentleman who was in the school of dentistry, and we ran a restaurant together. And his father was a stockbroker at E.F. Hutton. I didn't know anything about stockbroker, and he was one of these very generous human beings. And he said to me, he says, I got you a job. I said, great, doing what? He says, just show up and do the interview and, things like that. And, I walk in there, I'm nervous. The typical question that an interviewer would ask back in the late 70s was, well, what's your weakness? And I said to him, well, my weakness is I don't know anything about your industry. How good's your training program? Because I can learn anything. And the guy sat back. He said, I have never had a 24-year-old turn that around on me so quickly with such confidence. You're hired. And I said, okay, great. And then I'd never believed that, you could call strangers and have them send you money. But I didn't have the safety net, and I knew I needed one. So I just followed the recipe, and, I cold called, smiled and dialed, while everyone else was going out drinking and partying. About 6 o'clock, 6:30, I was at my desk till 9, every night. And when I got 25 no's, I knew it was a good night. And I did that for a number of years and got very successful with it. However, the problem with it was I was successful. I was making money, but the clients weren't. They were giving me recommendations. The firm said, we were doing a lot of syndicate at that time. I come from Pittsburgh, so Duquesne Light was always the utilities. They were always offering new stock. And, I'd call people and say, how would you like Duquesne Light to pay your electric bill? And, it worked. It was surprising to me that it worked, but about 3 years in, I was getting ready to get married, and I walked into my branch manager and said, this thing doesn't make a lot of sense to me. He said, what are you talking about? You open up all these accounts, you're doing so well. I said, yeah, but the clients, what about the clients? And he said, okay, before you make your decision, and he sent me to a meeting over the weekend in Columbus, Ohio, and that changed the course of my entire career. E.F. Hutton was a pioneer in the money management space, learning how to do fee-based money management, setting up investment objectives, policy statements, doing manager searches, monitoring the manager to the objectives, and then doing it on a fee basis. And I looked at that and says, this is something that is valuable that we can work on together. I came back and said, I want to be the coordinator, because they had coordinators in each branch for a specific product area. And he says, you can't. I said, well, why can't I? He said, because you don't have any of these accounts. I said, okay, fine, I'll be back. Then a month later, I had 2 or 3 of these accounts, and I became the coordinator. And I learned and taught the Pittsburgh area how to go about building a fee-based money management business. And that changed. That was the one thing that changed. And the other thing that E.F. Hutton was very good about was they also were involved in financial planning. And so the combination of those two things got me into a really strong value proposition for my apologies to my dog, who's barking here. But those two things really got me into a value proposition that I could get behind. And then that started the process of planning, consulting. Fast forward to the late 80s after the stock market crash, and a friend of mine, very wealthy friend of mine, turns to me and says, I can't make your stuff work. And I says, well, what do you mean you can't make it work? Let me ask you a question. Do you treat that part of your life like you do your business? And I don't know where that question came from me. Okay. In his eye, he says, that's a great question. And the answer is no. And at that point, I realized another way that I could add value was acting as my client's personal CFO. I was one of the pioneers of using that term. Today, everybody's using that term. So I looked at the personal CFO. I said, well, what areas? It was in retirement planning, investment planning, and estate planning. Most of the work was done in the retirement planning area. And it just continued and evolved. And then I ran into another consultant everybody knows in the industry. His name is Bill Good from Bill Good Marketing, who taught me what my role was, which was my role was not to do service. My role was to do advice and counsel. So I started to build a team. And in 1993, E.F. Hutton had some problems. They merged with Shearson Lehman. It was Hutton, Lehman, America. I don't remember what it was, but in 93, it became clear to me that there were some issues. They didn't get team. Payne Weber got team. So I moved my practice over to Payne Weber, and then I ended up there until my 65th birthday, when I left to start Interchange Capital Partners as an independent RIA. So that's my history.
And Payne Weber became UBS like right after you joined, right?
Yeah, within a number of years. It was a funny story. I remember I was on vacation in Myrtle Beach. I got the word that UBS was buying Payne Weber. I turned to my wife and said, oh, thank God, we've got these great Swiss bankers. We're never going to get blown up again. Well, that wasn't the case, obviously. UBS then blew themselves up in 2007, with the subprime, how much they had on the books. But nonetheless, it was a great run. And by the time it became clear that my next move, if there was going to be a next move, was to go independent. I was not going to, even though obviously I could have gotten a big check from Morgan or Merrill or wherever, but I really was interested in building something, because I've always been that way. From day one at E.F. Hutton, I viewed this as a franchise opportunity. I never, even though technically I was always an employee, but I never viewed it that way. I always viewed it as a franchise opportunity, that this is my business, even though it was under the umbrellas of all these Wall Street firms.
Sure. Yeah, so for our listeners who aren't aware, E.F. Hutton was the original firm doing fee-based management with a consulting group. They called it the Consulting Services Division, right, Ahmie?
Right. Yep.
And
You're
then
showing your age, Brian.
yeah. So I was at Lehman Brothers, which was part of Shearson Lehman, and we welcomed E.F. Hutton into the fold in the 1990s. So then we became consulting services alchemists,
Right.
and went through all the training, which is what you had already been going through.
Correct.
And that group still exists today in the embodiment of the consulting division of now Morgan Stanley,
Right.
because it went to Smith Barney, and then Smith Barney was acquired by Morgan Stanley. But they still do great work, and that was an early adopters of money management and then financial planning, and that really professionalized our business in so many ways. And
Very much
so, element of luck, Ahmie, on your part that you happened to be there and learn that. You were in the original shop doing it, so congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
There's always an element of luck in this business to some extent.
You know, for some people call it luck, and other people call it, that's just the way the universe operates. So, let the universe handle the details. Everyone can call it whatever they like. I feel privileged that I was in the right place at the right time and was able to recognize that it was a good opportunity. And that's sort of what my MO is all about. I'm a visionary. To the great hockey player Wayne Gretzky, who said, "Oh, I skate to where the puck's going." That is what I believe I do in this industry. Where's this industry going? And I think the industry still has a lot of work to do, which is one of the reasons why I went independent, so that I could begin to share that vision without the constraints of having to fit into the traditional Wall Street model.
Yes. Well, Ahmie, great discussions on so many levels. You also mentioned Bill Good, and for many of our listeners who are not around then, the industry deregulated commissions, and it changed the industry. It changed the players in the industry. It also changed how people acquired clients. So cold calling came into the fore, and a gentleman named Bill Good out of Sandy, Utah, ended up training most of the big wirehouses. I went through Payne Weber training. You went through E.F. Hutton training. There was Dean Witter, Merrill Lynch was there back then. Morgan Stanley was there. We all went through Bill Good training.
Yep.
And cold calling cherries and pits, 40 miles per hour,
right.
10 leads, three potential. You mail something out, you call them back. It was a regular program.
Right. Yep. In 1987, he told me after the market crashed, I'd signed up for him to modernize us, and I backed away, but he said, no, I'll have you totally computerized by the time the weekend's over. I said, okay, and we'll do it. And we started drip campaigns, and Bill is still working, because I got in touch with Bill, and he's built he's been a phenomenal resource and has been tremendously impactful for, as you say, Brian, lots of financial advisors, and continues to be, even though he's given the business up. He's still engaged and involved. He's got someone taking over as CEO president, but Bill and I learned a lot from Bill, for sure.
Yes. And so then now people don't know Bill as well because the industry has changed. So as we've noted, the only constant in any industry is change. And so once everyone gets good at cold calling, then the game changes a little bit. And so now it's mostly by referral, business owners, planning, a lot of other new ways to touch clients. But the key you mentioned earlier, Ahmie, is you've always tried to bring something unique to the table. You call it the wow factor, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the wow factor. What does that mean?
Well, first and foremost, it's the client experience has to be wow. So, right. First of all, you have to have a very strong value proposition. And if your value proposition today is your fee-based money management, I want to tell you that that's not a wow. That's now a shelf product. Okay, so you're not going to get too far with that. Your wow has to be, well, what is it? And I'll share with you what I believe the wow is. It's truly delivering on comprehensive, collaborative planning. It's
Right.
not about investment management is just table stakes today. You
Right.
really have to be that quarterback. You really have to be that personal CFO. You really have to be engaged and involved with your client and their family. You have to be able to coordinate and collaborate with all their different advisors. And that's where I believe we are not there yet. We are certainly getting there, where that becomes the value proposition for the majority. The other wow for us is recognizing that there is a blue ocean strategy out there. So I don't know if your listeners have read, I hope they've read the blue ocean strategy. It changed my view of things. It basically talked about how did Southwest change the airline industry? How did Cirque du Soleil change the circus industry? What they did is they created new demand. So when you look at our industry, most financial advisors are really playing in not the blue ocean, but the red ocean. And the red ocean is, that's where all the blood is, because you're fighting to get everybody else's clients. So you're saying, well, my advisory is this, or I'm younger than he is, or our firm can do this, but it's all around investment advice and counsel around it. The blue ocean strategy is recognizing, well, where is there new demand for wealth management? And the new demand is coming in two places. The obvious place is next gen, because of the tremendous wealth transfer and transition from the baby boomers. And there's a lot of people that haven't figured out how to go about attaching themselves in working with that next gen. And then the other, which is the one we chose, which is business owners, the baby boomer business owner who has the bulk of their wealth tied up in their businesses. So they don't have large investment accounts. Their fears and concerns have nothing to do with that. It has to do with, how do I transition the business? How do I keep my business going? It's all around the business. So business planning, succession and exit and transition planning, that's new demand that comes into the marketplace. And you have to be able to be good enough to help that client. And that's the market, that we are in. And so for us, it's a wow value proposition, because every time we talk to a business owner, frankly, when we talk to COIs, attorneys and accountants, they said, yeah, that's great. No one's really doing this. Now, that was a number of years ago. Today, with the SEPA program, the Exit Planning Institute out of, I think they're in Philly, and then there's the Business Enterprise Institute out of Denver. There are more and more of these organizations that are training different advisory groups how to run a successful exit transition process. But if you're still focused on investment management, and that is the only way you get paid, then you you give that stuff away. Oh, I do all that, but are you really doing all that? Or is it really just a way for you ultimately to be there when the business owner sells, and then you hope you get, the investment work? It's a lot like the planning. A lot of people give away planning in the idea that, well, if I do all this planning for the client, then they'll bring me their assets. Now, it's not, I don't believe that's the way to approach this. So you're either going to focus your practice on planning, or you're going to focus on whether that's planning around the individual, whether it's planning for the next gen, whether that's planning for the business owner. I think the future of the industry is really, as I said, delivering on comprehensive collaborative planning. Unlocking a lifetime of work is what we're talking about, whether it's a professional or whether it's primarily a business owner for us.
Right. Interesting. Well, that's it. And blue ocean strategy is keeping it fresh, new ideas, new ways to do everything, and always be on top of what the new trends are. right?
Right. And creating, again, it's new demand. We hear it all the time when we talk to a business. Oh, yeah, I've got this financial advisor. He's got a couple $1,000,000. Do you think I'm going to give him the $40 million when I sell this business? No, that's my serious money. I'm not going to do that. So that's what I call the new demand. So it's not that's someone who really is not as engaged in the investment world, in the traditional Wall Street world and all these firms. He has been in control of his life, so he thinks he can, and he knows his best returns come from his business, and he really doesn't know how to transition, and he's got all kinds of issues as it relates to whether it's employees or management or families, or how's he going to do this, if he's going to do this, because a lot of times it's a lifestyle business where it's, so there's a whole area of new demand that's available. And the firms are not, we were instrumental in helping UBS before we left to build out their business transition work around it. So everybody's talking about it the same way as everybody used to talk about money management, but really didn't understand it well. And everybody talks about planning and maybe they're not really delivering it. It's the same story with this business transition. It's a very important area. Some people are definitely focused on it. There's some really great people out there within the wirehouse world that are doing that work. And there's a lot of people outside of it, but it's sort of the new buzzword. If you're going to say, well, I'm going to go after that business owner because it's clear that all that liquidity will eventually happen and I'm going to get a piece of it. Well, you need to really up your game. You really need to sharpen your saw. You need to be able to show that you really understand a business owner when you go that area.
So you pivoted to business owners, and you mentioned also next gen as another opportunity. What have you seen in that area? What are people doing in next gen? Have you looked at it much more?
Yes, we have. I think the number one thing that you need to be able to do is learn how to be a family advisor. You really have to help Gen 1 understand the different capitals. There are 5 different capitals. There's financial capital, which is where we all live, but there's intellectual capital, there's social capital, there's human capital, and there's spiritual capital. Then when you talk with a family and you want to engage the next gen, you first have to help Gen 1 recognize that they created all the financial capital. They've certainly have intellectual, social, human, and spiritual capital. But if you want to engage the next gen, you've got to be able to help the next gen recognize how they have had an impact on their financial, intellectual, social, human, and spiritual capital. Because then you can get not a level playing field, but you can open up the communication so that the family unit can start to have a conversation. And if you are the one that's guiding that conversation, then obviously the next gen is going to start to look at you differently than the way they look at you now. Because the way they look at you now is, oh, you're my parents' financial advisor. Great. I'm going to go get my own. Now, once you get involved with family advisory, on the other hand, and you're engaged with them to talk about their intellectual, social, human, and spiritual capital, as well as their financial capital, then they get to see, oh, they're really interested in me as well. So that seems to have worked very well, for a number of firms, and ours as well.
Nice. So there is some next gen involved in your world as well, in addition to the business owners, because you're talking to the next gen with all the gens.
Right. We're talking to our families because our families have issues. So we talked about planning. So everyone understands investment, but what's planning? Okay, so we have to we have defined planning as wealth expansion, We have defined planning as transition planning, which is estate planning, protection planning, and charitable giving. So when you start having that conversation with Gen 1, it leads to really important conversations about Gen 2. And it opens up a whole world, and there's a lot of concerns, certainly amongst the clients that you would consider high net worth or even ultra high net worth, where they're very concerned about the amount of money that they're going to leave to next gen. And so by utilizing family advisory, you can help Gen 1 establish some ground rules to be able to have really valuable family conversations and discussions, and give them the tools so that they can have those. Create mission statements, value statements to talk about that. Help them, because Gen 1 doesn't really understand the 5 capitals either. Okay, right. They understand the financial. When you start talking about intellectual capital, which is defined as your wisdom and your experience, oh yeah, well, maybe I should start talking to my children at any age about some of the things I learned while I was getting to this success, moving from success to significance. Same thing with social and human. So yeah, it's an opportunity to really help a family move to even a higher level together when it comes to all of this.
Nice. Wow. That's really a wow factor for us.
Yeah.
Now you've been recognized by Barron's. You're a certified financial planner. You've got some great credibility in the industry, and it's just interesting to see how your whole career has developed. If you had to give some messages to our brethren, our financial advisor brethren, and a few thousand people will visit this and see and hear you talk and hear us talk, what kind of messages do you think you would send to those folks?
Well, the first thing I would send to them, and this came from Bill Good, it came from work that I've done with Dan Sullivan at Strategic Coach. It's a play off the same idea. What is it that you love to do in this business? And Dan Sullivan calls it unique ability. So define Bill Good back in the early 80s says, Ahmie, you get, you get paid for advice and counsel, so don't do anything else. But Dan took it to the next level, says it's not what you get paid to do, it's what you are passionate about doing.
Right.
So determining what in this industry are you passionate about. That is not easy, because when you look at your unique ability, you tend to dismiss it. You tend to think, well, everybody has it. It's really not true. Your unique ability is something that you have passion for, that you continually will educate yourself. You'll continue to sharpen your saw. You would do it for free if nobody paid you for it. So my recommendation to our advisor brethren is to go out there and start to identify your unique ability in this business. So my unique ability, as I've learned over the years, is I know which screw to turn and by how much. Okay. The other unique ability that I have, is telling our story. So as I started to put that together, and I realized my unique ability is not in running portfolio review meetings. My unique ability wasn't in doing all the investment management. My unique ability was not in getting someone to show up to even entertain a story from us. And so what I had to do is I had to go find other people who had those unique abilities. And then I built a unique ability team that delivers that wow client experience. So the first thing I would do is say, go out there and look at everything. And the simple story is this. Let's assume this weekend you have total amnesia. You have to come back on Monday morning, and you can only pick one thing one specific, now, when I say this, people think of it as one activity. Think about it in a more general sense. Pick one thing that you want to take back immediately. What is it? That's going to give you a clue as to what your unique ability is. The other clue about what your unique ability is it energizes you. So an easy way to determine what your unique ability is to identify all those things that aren't. So you can turn around and you say, I don't like to do this. I don't like to do this. I don't like to do that. And start making a list of all your activities. And then these are the things I hate to do. These are the things that I'm okay at. These are the things I'm good at. These are the things I'm excellent at. None of those are your unique ability. What you're passionate about, that's your unique ability. So a way is through subtraction, you can end up getting to where your unique ability is.
So Dan, when you met with Dan and you learned about these new ideas and new ways of building, did it change how you developed relationships? Did you lead in differently? How did that all?
Totally. It's interesting. I'm actually working on 3 new success strategies as a result of my work with Dan Sullivan. And one of those is called Arrows Out. And that comes from the coach that I'm working with. It's Lee Brower. And, a lot of times there are a lot of people that just live with arrows out. In other words, how can I be of service to everybody? So I wake up and I'm looking at opportunities where I can be arrows out. So I'm not interested, it's not about me. It's about how can I be of service? How can I help you? The next part of it is be interested rather than interesting. I've spent my whole life cultivating how interesting I am. frankly, now it's not about how interesting Ahmie Baum is, it's how interested Ahmie Baum is in your story. So that's the second piece. And then the third,
get over yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Get over myself. That's exactly right. And then the last one is gratitude. True. So those 3 things I have helped me. Those are my second set of success strategies. My first set also came from Dan Sullivan in the work that I did with that group. Let me just put a little plug in for strategic coach, if you don't mind. I've been through a lot of coaching in my life. And many coaching programs, they give you a recipe and tell you just follow the recipe and you'll get this.
Yeah, just follow the plan.
Just follow the plan. What Dan Sullivan does is his program gives you knowledge products and helps you work on yourself to create your own. So my very first success strategies, 3 of them, turned out to be my daily meditation practice, my plant-based eating, and my yoga practice. When I do those 3, I call those, they're non-negotiable. Every day, I make sure I meditate first thing in the morning for 20 minutes. I make sure I eat plant-based, 99% of the time. And I finish my day with a 45-minute yoga practice. Those are non-negotiable. Those things set me up. I started those 15, 18 years ago. Quite close to 15. So those are my first set of success strategies. Now I've added that second set, and all of that came from the work that I've done with Strategic Coach over the last 20 years, 18 years, where I go there every quarter. They give you great knowledge concepts that we use with our clients to be able to help them build their bigger futures around that. So I had a Strategic Coach helped me 180 degrees. When I got to Strategic Coach, I was very successful. I really wanted no non-negotiables. In fact, my life was just the opposite. I wanted everything to be negotiable. I wanted to wake up in the morning and just go how my heart sang, and wherever I wanted to go, whatever I wanted to do. Strategic Coach helped me build some guardrails, some structure into which has proven to be even much more valuable than being, negotiable on everything. So
So, Ahmie, I've heard a number of smart strategists say that it'd be good if you, instead of working in your business, that you work on your business and that
Yes.
and your life. And that's what this is all about, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's another part of working on your business, and there's another knowledge product that I learned at Strategic Coach called the Entrepreneurial Time System. See, as entrepreneurs, we spend 24/7 at this.
Right.
So what he did is broke it. We're always on.
Right.
So he broke it down into 3 types of 24-hour periods. First and foremost, interestingly, was free days. Those are the days that you use to rejuvenate yourself. And it's interesting because most people see free days as a gift to themselves after they do all the work. Strategic Coach looks at it differently, says you can't do good work if you don't go through and be rejuvenated on a regular basis. Then you move to buffer days where you clean up messes. That's working on the business. And then you finally create focus days where you're working in the business. That concept changed everything around. So then I can take Mondays and not have to worry about, I got to call that client, I got to do this business, I got to do that. No, Mondays are buffer days for me. I'm working on the business. I'm meeting with the departments. I'm working with planning, getting ready so that I can have successful focus days where I'm in front of clients and in front of prospects, which are Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah, nice. It's amazing. Well, you really got some great ideas. Any other thoughts you want to leave our group with today? I think we're coming near the end of our time.
Yeah, arrows out. I'm here for you. Okay. I love the opportunity to help others. Part of my journey was, since my father said money doesn't grow on trees, I read a book early on in my life called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And
yes.
One thing that stuck out to me that I've used all my life is, if you help enough other people get what they want, you'll get everything that you want. So I'm available to all the other advisors. If they want to call, talk, I'm happy to help other people build their bigger future, help them remove their dangers and fears, help them capture their opportunities, and help support them in the strengths that they already have so that they can accomplish great things for themselves, their families, their businesses, as well as their communities. So I'm available.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Hopefully our friends will take you up on that. You're in Pittsburgh at Interchange Capital Partners. And thank you, Ahmie. Really just great ideas, great stories, great concepts for, you've had 2 years in the industry.
79, it's actually 44. It's coming on 44 in October.
But with those kinds of ideas, you keep it fresh. You can keep going another 44 if you can survive it, right?
It's all of remember those success strategies, plant-based eating, meditation, yoga. I'm hoping those will help keep me around for as long, because I've got a great family, I've got great employees, I've got great clients, I've got a great community, and I want to have an impact, and I want to support and help. So it all starts as, I also spend 6 months, because we're up Northeast, I spent 6 months working in Florida. In Florida, they tell you health is the new wealth. So, obviously you want to stay healthy.
Yes, absolutely. Well, great. Well, thank you again.
Brian, thank you for giving me the opportunity. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for being with us on the Financial Advisor Workshop, Ahmie, and we'll look forward to meeting some other really interesting folks here in the future as well. But you've been a great inspiration, and thanks again.
My pleasure.